Okay, so we are live. So welcome everybody, if anybody is here, um, to the channel. This is actually my first video back of 2026. I have not filmed any other videos yet, so you get to be the first one.
Oh, nice.
um, it's
That's
kind of
great,
like a
actually.
little exciting thing, but anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm here today with Jay Wolf, and we are going to be talking about a new anthology that has swords, spice, and sorcery. I'm very excited to jump into it. But Jay, I'll let you introduce yourself first before we jump into the questions.
Sure. I'm Jay Wolf. I am sort of an author, illustrator, editor, podcaster, bon vivant. I have done few. I would say, like, I'm trying to think of a way to put it. I'm sorry. I haven't done my own intro in a
Mhm.
really long time.
That's okay.
Um, Beating Hearts and Battle Axes, the anthology in question today, is the first of my anthology repertoire, but I've been editing for a really long time. And I'm really excited to get to talk about it today. So that's I'll tidy it up right there.
Right
Um,
on. Yeah, I'm the same way. As soon as somebody asks me to talk about myself, I'm like, my brain goes blank.
I used to have like a really good like 30 second, not even 30 second, like 15 second just spiel, and it has evaporated. Um, I'm also a full time caregiver, so that's sort of part of why that happened.
Okay, yeah,
But
you got a
yeah,
lot on your mind all the time, so don't worry about it.
exactly.
Do not worry. Yeah. So
Needed all the
today,
useful information.
today we're going to be talking about beating hearts and battle axes, and I am so excited to jump in and just talk about it. This is an
Yes.
anthology that blends a lot of things together, and it's very exciting. So yeah, let's just jump in with our first question, which is for anyone new to the anthology, how would you pitch this in like one sentence?
So, Beating Hearts and Battle Axes is a sword and sorcery and romantic fantasy anthology. The principles that we're aiming for are stories of love and adventure and danger, while also holding a relationship at the core of the story. And that was really important to us going into the design of the anthology. Is that both
Right
of
on.
these elements have to be present.
Okay. So this is an on the spot question, not one of the ones we prepared, but just because when I think of like the blend of romance and fantasy, I think of Romantasy, the
Yes.
which has become very popular on Book Talk. So I was
Yes.
thinking, like, just for fun, if you had to give this anthology like a hashtag that was not the title of the book, what would you give it to like get people trending with this on like Book Talk or something?
You want to give it like a blank of blank and blank?
Yeah, you could do one of those. There's
um,
a lot of them.
yeah, I'm trying to think of a good one for this one. That actually, I might need to like brew on that for a minute, but my
Totally fair.
preliminary would be uh, like a romance of madness and mayhem, like
I love that. Love it.
um, just off the top
Okay,
of my head. Just like it's very much like
that's great. Yeah.
it's very much one of those
Let's
books that
let
like yeah, we'll get there, but oh no, you froze. I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe I froze. Somebody froze. I gotta check on my
oh, 1 second.
computer here.
I
Something
think I
froze.
lost you there.
Yeah, I think I froze. I'm not sure. Trying to recover
What's
here.
going on? Jay, are you still there?
I'm here. I'm here. My computer is angry about something. I am turning off everything just in case.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, there you go. You're back.
All right.
Sorry, I think
Is
the
it working?
internet cut out there for a second.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that. It could be my end. So I have unfortunately very dodgy internet sometimes, but not always. In any case, sorry. I got cut off in the middle there. I'm back on track, I think. Oh no.
Okay. I'm. Are you back? I'm back.
I think I am here. Hang tight.
Okay. That was weird. I don't know what went wrong with the internet there.
I don't know. It could be my end. I live in a mid-century house and it has mid-century everything. So sometimes the
Okay.
Wi-Fi
Well,
is like, so I hate it when
yeah,
it does
it could
that.
have been my end too. I'm not too sure. Let's
Okay.
just jump back in and
Regroup.
continue, and
We're good.
hopefully we have no other issues. We'll be good. Okay, so yeah, I'll just jump into the next question on our list. So what initially inspired the idea to blend sword and sorcery with romance and spice in this anthology?
Well, that's a great question. So, shortly after I originally met Oliver, he asked me to send him some work, and it became very clear to him that I had a solid grasp of sword and sorcery and romance. And so, shortly after that, he reached out to me like, "Hey, would you want to do?" At the time we were first talking about it, it was like, "Would you consider doing a special issue of New Edge Sword and Sorcery for me?" And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Well, that might work, but like, consider the anthology." And I think we kind of went back and forth on it for a while before we figured out what we wanted to do with it. But this has
Mm-hmm.
been in the making since like mid 2023. And
Okay.
so it feels like a really long road, and yet at the same time it also, like, when you look at it on paper, it's like, oh, it's like a little more than 2 years overall. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not as fast as it could have been because of some of my caregiver responsibilities accelerated very rapidly in the middle of the production process. And so I had to kind of set some things aside while my brother was in the hospital. So
Mm-hmm.
in any case, the idea, like, at the core of this, the idea that the story has to have both elements, was something that we landed on like very early on. And accordingly, it meant that we kind of had to, like, when we were designing the anthology, we had to sort of set out with a few specific authors in mind and then invite a few more authors in as we got comfortable with it. So that was sort of an interesting process, just sort of figuring out, like, who is going to need more help with the romance part, who's going to need more help with the sword and sorcery part. Like, we had a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of both.
Yeah.
And it was kind of fun, honestly, as far as that goes. So that part was enjoyable.
Right
But
on.
yeah, so
And
as far as, like, oh, sorry.
oh, I was just gonna say, in regards to like the timeline thing, I don't think that's like not
It
normal.
sounds, yeah, no, it's funny because, like, on one side it sounds like, God, that took forever, and then the other side it's like, this was this worked out okay timeline wise. And again,
Yeah.
it's a book, so it doesn't have a shelf life, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
You can revisit it indefinitely. Like, there's no finite point at which, like, it's expired and you need the next one, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And even like with other publishing houses too, a lot of the times a book from
Oh
like
yeah, the
its
production schedule
lifespan
for traditional publishing is
is,
years.
yeah,
So
exactly. So I think for the time it
being
took to get
indie
it
leaves
done,
you a lot more nimble.
yeah, you definitely did it in a decent amount of time. You're good. Um, okay, so then why do you think Sword and Sorcery is such a great playground for passionate, emotionally driven stories?
Well, I mean, you almost said it right there. Like, there are a lot of, I think, elements to what we think of as classic sword and sorcery that are a little bit more personal and tight to what we like to refer to it as, like, one of the bodily subgenres, right? Like, everything about sword and sorcery is very, very tightly keyed in on a few select characters. You're not usually looking at stories that are big and epic. You're looking at, like, in the case of something like Conan the Barbarian, like, you're very tight to his perspective on what's going on, generally speaking. Like, you have a bird's eye view
Hmm.
of him, but at the same time, like, you're not really getting the emotional life of the sorceress on the side.
Hmm.
Like, you're
Yeah.
getting Conan's responses, Conan's feelings, um, Conan's instincts, so to speak. And I feel like that is actually a really good place to experiment with things like romance, and that was one of the things that that Oliver was specifically interested in when he asked me about this, is that, like, there is a tendency in sword and sorcery to sort of shy away from some of that stuff. Like,
Hmm.
there's a sort of self-consciousness that occurs in some sword and sorcery authors. I'm not blaming anybody, I'm not naming anybody. It's just sort of like, because the artwork and visual imagery of sword and sorcery is very saucy in some ways. Like, everybody's very thews out, very very muscular, very like not a lot of clothes on. And I think that some of the titles in that conform to that make other people sort of gun shy about doing stories that have a lot of sexuality to them. And so that was one of the things we sort of wanted to tackle with this. Not the only thing by any means, but like one of the many like driving things was like, well, what if they did kiss though? Like nobody would die, right?
Yeah.
And so we had to do that like in an interesting way, and I think that the easiest way to do that was to have like a bunch of different authors with a bunch of different perspectives on that, all sort of chiming in.
Yeah, and I love that too, because like, yeah, you're getting like so many different ways that this could play out, and that variety
Yes.
too. Like you're getting to see these traditional like fantasy authors bringing that new spark to their stories and adding that extra layer.
Right.
Is...
And just to the credit of the people that I pulled in, I mean, we managed to get some stories that really run the gamut in terms of the like classical styling to more contemporary styles to even like so Wong did sort of a Zandia Wuxia sort of infused sword and sorcery, which I was incredibly geeked about having to pull that together. And Brent Lambert pulled together a really very cool sword and soul story that I just like sold. Yeah, I think sword and soul. And, you may have to catch that later. Anyways, I'm sorry. Like,
that's okay.
In any case, like I got a lot of genre, like inter-genre variety from the authors that I had here, and the like really like the unifying element of all these stories is that it is sword and sorcery, and there's some romantic element. I'm hesitant to call all of them a romance, capital R romance, simply because the nature of romance is very specific on the thing that we'll call like the happily ever after, the happy for now, the ending that is unequivocally positive. And that doesn't happen a lot in sword and sorcery. So we had to decide internally sort of like, what's a happy ending in sword and sorcery? Because we're going to need one. We're going to get skewered if we don't have one. And the answer that I came up with is that the characters rove on together, either together or apart, but like that the story continues after them. You can clearly see a line that these people survived the encounter they went through and are stronger for it, and whether they stayed together or parted ways, their lives were affected by it. Right? Like the romantic element of the story, however deeply felt, because I mean I have stories all over the gamut there, which is kind of nice, but specifically just that the romance is going to impact what happens to them after this. Right. And that was, I would say, like probably mission critical to me, almost as much as any other part of this.
That's good. I just wanted to pop in here. We got some people in the chat, so I'll just put them in here.
Oh, excellent.
So we got
we have over here.
Greetings. We got Steve.
Oh, Steve,
hello.
Hi.
Punts.
Hello. I have not. Hello.
And then Steve also said, I feel you in terms of the nervousness of using
it's such a
capital
thing.
R romance.
It's such a thing. I really like, I usually do, even my own work, and I do a lot of work that has romantic elements, and I say romantic elements instead of romance because I don't usually use the structures of romance. I have one story that does, but it's almost the exception rather than the rule.
Okay, awesome. So let's jump into the section that I call the editorial vision and curation.
Oh, nice.
So now, as the editor, what was your core vision for this collection when you first opened submissions? And I know before we started this, you were saying that there was kind of a little bit of a different process for submissions for this. So yeah, if you want to go into that.
So I would say that like normally, if I was doing submissions like for a speculative version of this that might be like a volume 2, say, usually what I would do is I would sort of triage the stories that come in and create sort of at least like a reading list for myself, and scan briefly to make sure that we're not looking at anything that just doesn't belong here. Like to a certain extent, the good and the bad part of having an inter-genre where you have multiple genres that have to be met is that you will have a lot of things that you can eliminate just sort of on, is this this romantic enough? Is this sword and sorcery enough? Is this not really conforming to the things that I want? And then from there, then you would kind of triage down to like, is this doing the thing that I want? And can I tell the person how to do it? Because that's the real part of editing for me. I am a developmental editor by day, so to speak. I part-time freelance, but so one of my jobs, as it is to take a story and sort of pull apart the core pieces and see like what's going on in the guts. Sometimes I have to do the full triage and like stitch things back together. Sometimes I just have to tell somebody like, we need to do a little bit of diction work on this, but it's more or less doing what I need it to do. I almost always have some like significant structure thing to do it, and that's just because like as a writer it's very hard, and I say this as a writer who struggles a lot with this, it's very hard to see the exact order of the story the way it needs to go on paper. There's almost always something that's missing or something that's like in the wrong spot, and so that's sort of part of my job as an editor, is to find those things and just sort of like lightly to not so lightly rearranging them, and also like working together. Fortunately, like all 6 of my authors for this are absolute rock stars at that. They all take direction incredibly, and all came up with better things than I suggested anytime I had a suggestion. So that part is really fun. As far as like this particular one, this particular anthology was all commissioned authors, so I didn't have open submissions for this, but we still went through a process very similar to that because they still sent me stories kind of blind. I gave them a rough rubric of like, we want this, we want this, we want this, we don't want this, we don't want this, we don't want this. And they all went to town and sent me stories back, and I basically went back and forth with them, usually a couple of times, depending on exactly like what needed to be done. Some stories needed more work than others. Of course, that's sort of true for anything when you're doing an anthology. There'll be somebody who sort of like has the thing mostly down and needs a lot of sentence work, and then there'll be somebody else who's like, well, I know what I want it to do, but here's the pieces. And that's, I mean, honestly, that's like one of my favorite things in the world to do, is just sort of take a story apart and put it back together. So honestly, it was kind of a dream job for me in that sense. And the one thing that got in the way of that was just personal life stuff. So yeah, it was really nice to have stories from such a talented group of people that I could do that with. When you're using Slush, it's a little bit more, you're sort of flying with what came in. But I still love doing Slush too, and I've slushed for a number of publications, including Uncanny Magazine, for a really long time now. And that I think has helped me kind of hone some of the like taste in stories, trying to find things that are distinctive but still feel familiar in a way that's like comforting. That was one of the things that it was sort of like an undertone of this, was like I wanted these stories to have some amount of what I'll call like romantic comfort, because that's the real thing that someone reading romantic work, whatever genre, subgenre, is looking for, is some amount of like comfort and security, and the idea that like you're sharing something with someone else.
Yeah. No, that's a very beautiful way to put it.
Oh, thank you.
And I also like want to give you props, because there is a certain skill to like take apart stories and put them back together even better than they were. Like that is definitely something that is hard to do. So,
and I want to stress that like none of the stories that came into me were bad at all. This was already like really good work, and in some cases that's actually harder. It is honestly a lot harder to take a story that's like 99% of the way there and get it to 100. It's actually a lot easier. It's a lot easier when they're not as well put together. But yeah, honestly, like that part was just, it was delightful, because I kept having opportunities to just sort of go back to our core idea, which was just that like romance belongs in this space as much as it does in any other space. So that's
I love
that. Thank you.
Okay, so when you were, because these were commissioned, I was going to say, what made a story stand out to you during the selection process? But
well, that's still a good question, and
I guess
because it's because I still had to be like, is this story going to work for us? And that was like, it was not always a sure thing, just because like because of the variety of people that we pulled in for this, it was like, what are we going to get back? And like once they did come back to me, I still had to look at things like the voice and diction and structure and just sort of see what we were getting, um and make sure that they all cohered well enough that they would still be a whole book at the end. So that's still actually a pretty relevant question, even for commissioned stories.
Yeah.
Like there were only a couple of instances where like I approached somebody and like hashed out what the story was going to be before they even wrote it. Most of the time it was just sort of like, I wrote you the story. It's got romance, it's got sword and sorcery, and to everybody's great credit, they all did that, which was good. But yeah, it was just sort of like the trying to think of a way to put it. A lot of it is just sort of finding, especially for romance, like you have to find the language a little bit more maybe refined than you have to do with something like pure sword and sorcery. I feel like the important thing is the sort of like the rawness, right? Like the directness of it. And in romance, like you need the directness. The directness is actually a great benefit, but you do also have to flower the language a little bit more than you would normally.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. Was there like a particular balance that you were looking for between action, romance, and like heat level?
Oh,
Like
that's a great
spiciness?
question. And I'll sidebar that with just that, like, one of the interesting side effects of asking a bunch of different people to do this is that we actually basically had a kind of a long, a more or less complete gamut of heat ranges. So, and I did not organize them in order of heat. I organized them sort of, I had a sort of specific order that came to mind as I was working on it, because one of the things about romance is tropes, right? So the tropes that were sort of like the dominant trope, or one of the dominant tropes of each story, were sort of like how I ended up organizing the hierarchy of the stories. And that whole write-up is actually in the front of the book, so I will spare anybody the time of like reading all of that out. But I went from a story that basically is actually like the very, very beginning, like I would call it like a romantic meet cute, to a story at the very end of the anthology that is a second chance romance. And
Okay.
so that was sort of it was sort of like satisfying once I figured out like those were the anchor points and I could fit like the other stories around those. It was sort
Yeah.
of like that was like, oh, okay, that's a great organizing structure. So going by the tropes for this particular one. I know that that's actually probably works against me a tiny bit in romance, because people who like certain tropes in romance might also dislike other tropes that are in the same book. So it's challenging, but at the same time, we wanted to even see if it was going to work. And so the fact that it has as well as it did is sort of remarkable. And it might, in future, I might look at it and go like, should we do some specific tropes for the next one, just to sort of make it a little easier for the reader to be like, oh, this is tropes I like or tropes I don't like. But then sometimes it's like, I think maybe everybody needs to be a little less picky. I don't know.
That's interesting too, as well, because like it shows the different levels of like the publishing process. Because for me, I was just like, when I think of an anthology, I just think of a bunch of short stories thrown together and put into one book. But you actually have like a whole formatted layout of like the start and end point with
Oh
those
yeah.
tropes as well, which like I wouldn't have even considered. So that's like, yeah, I don't know. It's just fascinating to me, like how
I had
everything
to.
put together.
I think that's a great. Thank you. I really appreciate that as a compliment. For me, it was like I need to have sort of like an organizing language for this.
Yeah.
If it's just 6 stories in a box, like it happens sometimes in anthologies, just a bunch of stories in a box. But I wanted them to, because we only had 6 and we had a little bit more word count for everybody. Like that was one of the things that I set out with in this, was like everybody had 12,000 words, and which is a lot higher than an average anthology story. These are all 6 of these are technically novelettes. If you're looking for like the Hugo nomination and Nebula nomination categories, all 6 of them are novelettes. So because I had more word count and fewer authors, they had to cohere a little bit more. I still think that like they each have their own, all have their own very distinct voices. There's no way you could mistake one story for another out of the group of stories that I have here. But in general, like they still had to they had to all feel like they went together.
Yeah, no, definitely.
They all had to feel like they fit in the book.
Which, I mean, I feel like you kind of just answered my next question, because my next question was how did you approach maintaining variety
Yes.
while still giving the anthology a cohesive feel? So, like, I feel
Yep.
like you've already answered that.
More or less, it happens.
We actually have a question from the audience. So,
Okay.
Steve, he said, were there any stories that really surprised you and or that changed your perspective on the anthology or genre or something else in some way? No worries if you can't name them, though I'm curious.
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, the reality is that every story kind of tinkered with what I wanted out of the anthology, because when you have just the idea of an anthology and you're still pitching people and you're still just feeling around for who's available to write you a story. You have that moment of what are they going to what are they going to bring to the table? And so in that regard, all 6 of my authors brought something to the table, and while I'm at it, also my cover illustrator and our interior illustrator, everybody brought something into the process that I was not anticipating. I don't know that I could say what specifically I learned, except that it gave me sort of a good idea of how other people view these subgenres, and also not for nothing, but how thirsty so many people are for these subgenres. For them specifically to be fitting together. The excitement level from every person that I approached about this project was sort of extraordinary. And so if nothing else, I can say that there is an active appetite for stories that do X and Y together really well.
We like action and we like violence, but we also like love.
Right. Well, and again, the physicality of sword and sorcery lends itself there really well. I think the emotional nature of even just a sex scene or something like that, I feel like the intimacy of the narrative in sword and sorcery suits that really well.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. And I mean, you had mentioned it a little bit when you were talking about the cover artist. For any of you that have not seen the cover of this, the cover is phenomenal.
Yes.
It's in the thumbnail actually of this video, so check that out. And also for anybody here, the link in the description will take you to the page where you guys can get the book. I'll mention it again at the end of the video, but if you go there, you can see the cover of it as well. It's pretty
nice.
special. I think this was also part of the question from Steve. What was that like and how it may have impacted your approach in a broad sense?
I will say that the process definitely sort of taught me that I can be a little more specific when I ask people for stuff.
There you go.
Just because I felt like there were times where I didn't say there was some element I left unsaid, thinking surely they'll fill in the gaps and figure out what they want there. I'm not going to interfere in that part. And then I should have interfered in that part, not because of anything that was done wrong, but just sort of that I could have saved on agonizing for the poor dear author or poor dear illustrators.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it was fun though. Really and sincerely, there was no part of this that I was oh, this was such a trial and a slog, other than just those sheer, just any amount of work that you have to do for a long time will start to feel like it's not done yet.
Yeah. We had Puns say, I appreciate hearing how the stories were ordered in the book.
Aww.
And Steve wanted to just say thank you for answering his question. Okay, so last question for that section was, were there any tropes or themes that surprised you by how often they appeared in the different submissions?
Ooh, I have to say actually no, but that's because I didn't have open submissions. I think if I had open submissions, I would probably very quickly start to detect patterns, not because romance has very few things to choose from, but because I have having slushed for Uncanny for about 12 years and slushed a bunch of other things, you start to get to you start to see the tropes. You get the Matrix screen and it's oh yeah, blonde, redhead, etc. Hugo Weaving, or no, not Hugo. You know who I'm talking about. The fellow that Joe. I'm sorry. You can tell I have very severe ADHD and a very low filter. Anyways, so yeah, you start to just you see the matrix of the submissions when they're in bulk like that, and that's sort of the interesting part of not having bulk submissions. So, but I will say that like I'm open to them, and actually that was one thing that I feel like if I had had the opportunity to do with this, I might have had even more fun, but then it would have taken even longer. So yeah.
You know, as soon as you put that open submission call out there, you're gonna have a very full inbox. So
yep,
that'll take some while. That's why it's called a slush pile for a reason.
Exactly. No question. And for the record, I mean, slushing is one of those things that's very easy to be like slushing about, but I promise you, as a slush editor for a really, really long time, it's actually very fun. It's just it is work, and so it's work, but it's fun work.
Yeah.
One of those like conundrums of life.
Okay, so just a little follow up. I want to know, what is your favorite trope in like the romance genre?
I don't know that my favorite element could really be distilled as a single trope. I would say that like a trope I commonly gravitate to is second chance or like rivals to lovers kind of scenarios. I love that sort of situation. I like the relationship starting at a point of conflict and working past the conflict. That's very, very interesting to me personally.
I 100% agree with you there. I love enemies to lovers. Love
yeah.
it's one of my favorites. I also, that being said though, like I do like the occasional like friends to lovers as well.
Oh, absolutely. I also I would say that like my personal tendencies as a writer have a strong like strangers to lovers to competent relationship trajectory, which is sort of like, it's weird to say it out loud, but basically a lot of times I like to just like mash two characters together and see what happens. And a lot of times it's like I think that being physically interested in each other is more interesting at first, and then working out what that means after some amount of development time has elapsed is almost, I would say to me it's more rewarding than like waiting and waiting and waiting, but then it's just sort of like my personality.
That's fair. I also love like, yeah, it's not really like a trope, but like I just love when an author can pull off like witty but fun banter between the two characters.
Yes, I would go so far as to say that's practically a requirement for me.
Yeah, because like
they have to be clever with each other. They don't necessarily have to be the cleverest person in the room all the time, but if they're not able to be clever together, I don't know how to deal with them, because I mean, in part just because like that's what my life is like. My relationships have always been with people that I could successfully banter with, so it's definitely something I put a lot of priority on.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the book that we're talking about right now, but it's the one I'm currently reading. It's called Absolutely Not Him, and this one
that sounds like a great title.
Definitely has some amazing witty banter in it. Not fantasy though, so like this is that's like purely just romance.
The title alone is like, all right, yeah, that's probably up my alley.
It's so much fun, like the two characters, the way they interact back and forth. Also, another one that has great banter is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. That book is phenomenal. Okay. Enough with the book. I'm just like jumping into the recommendations now.
It's all good.
I gotta get back on track here. Okay, so I'll jump over to our next section of questions, which is genre, spice, and representation. Yes. So for this one, before we jump into that, we just have somebody saying, I love book lovers too. Awesome. So the question is, spicy can mean different things to different readers. How would you describe the heat level of this anthology?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, so the answer is all over the place. And I decided, like, it was sort of an editorial decision of mine not to like specifically grade like the spiciness level of any of the stories in the anthology, surely because like my taste level, first of all, my taste level is just not other people's taste level when it comes to that. So Something that would be a 3-pepper situation for me is like not a 3-pepper, like most of those people would be running out of the room with their mouth on fire. So I elected to just sort of like let them be what they are, because I'm not like, as much as we put the emphasis on like the sizzle and the spice part, that's not the part that I'm selling to you. I'm selling these like cool story about these characters.
Yeah.
So that was sort of my priority in that regard. But that being said, we had basically everything from like again, a story of a relationship just at the very beginning where it's really not very physical yet, all the way to basically a story that like opens with on-page sex and like everywhere in between, more or less. That was sort of, again, that was, I won't say that that was an intentional design of mine, but it was one of those things that like as it developed in the anthology, I was like, good, I'm covering all of the bases.
Yeah, we're getting a wide variety of what to
Exactly.
expect here.
Like I didn't want it to be I almost didn't want it to be any one specific heat level, sort of because of that, because
Yeah.
everyone's heat level is different, and like these are like stories that have objectively different heat levels, so
And
there's
it's,
bound to be something you'll be okay with.
yeah, like aside from like also just the physicality of it, we're getting to explore different like emotional ranges too,
Yes,
which is nice.
exactly.
So no, that's awesome. Steve wanted to say he really likes that approach.
I appreciate that, Steve.
How does this collection push or subvert traditional sword and sorcery expectations?
Oh, good question. All right. So I let people be pretty liberal with like what sword and sorcery entails. One of the sort of core tenets at New Edge Sword and Sorcery is, I hesitate to say like that it's like all or nothing on it, but like Brian Murphy's, I'll call them like just sort of like touchstone points, are all things that we all appreciate, where the story is close to the characters, the stakes are close to the characters. I'm not going to go through his whole list just because like that would be a whole other podcast, frankly. But basically, the sort of like the idea that the stakes are close and the character interpretations are close. You're not getting like a kingdom wide view of what's going on, that sort of thing. Like you want tight, focused action. You're not saving the world. You're trying to get through um, the next big thing, as it were. Like it's very much trying to think of a good way to put it. Like the stakes are personal, the stakes are close, the action is tight to the main characters, that sort of thing. So we had to scope out just a little bit to have, I'm trying to think of a way to put it, like some of the stories scope out a little bit further than I would normally choose for sword and sorcery, just because some element of that framed the romance a little bit more accurately. And so it was easier to sort of like take and see like, all right, what part of this are we going to tweak to make the flavor a little bit more of one subgenre or another, that's sort of like in conversation with both sword and sorcery and romance, while still keeping this like the stakes of each story really. I feel like we successfully got everybody like very close on what each character is doing, like what their needs are, and in what ways they are broken and can be mended by romance, which I think is something that I feel like that's something that is overlooked a lot in sword and sorcery. It's very easy in sword and sorcery to like lose a lover. If you look at, all of the classics, Conan's Rolodex, Elric basically loses everything every time he holds this baneful black sword, and even Fafhrd and the Grey Mouse are my two dear idiots. Like their entire, like the entire like arrested development of Fafhrd and the Grey Mouse is pretty much like, our girlfriends got killed and now we're just going to be like jerks about it forever. And so like when Oliver and I were conceiving of this thing, like we were like, there's got to be more to it than that, right? Like we've got to be able to do things with this subgenre where all of these handsome people are half naked on the cover. We've got to be able to like capitalize on this somehow. Like
Yeah, no,
So in that way, we are very different from Sword and Sorcery in that like
yeah,
there's some sexuality on the page, and
right
it's more
on.
than just like, oh no, my girlfriend died. Um,
Yeah, that is, yeah, I find that that's a common, even like in books and movies, it's a common thing where they just have a
yeah,
character for the sole purpose of just killing them off
yeah.
at the beginning
The
to
like TV tropes wording
propel.
for it is fridging from that one Nightwing
Yeah,
comic, I think. And to be fair, like some of these stories were written in like the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Like
yeah,
they're the foundation on which the idea of fridging was built long before fridging was a thing that we like actively looked at and went like, maybe we could do something a little bit more like challenging than that with our narratives.
hmm,
Um, so I'm sympathetic to the idea that like Fritz Leiber was born in 1910 and a story they wrote in 19 mumble. He might he might have killed some girlfriends to like give them character development. Um, but like as a modern writer, like what can we do? What can we do to break out of like second wave sword and sorcery and even like the like 80s wave sword and sorcery and do things that appeal to a modern audience and expand on the things that we expect from sword and sorcery? And I feel like we succeeded there at the very least, just with what we put together here. But it's a boundary I would like to continually push.
that's awesome. So, any of you guys in the audience, prospective readers, you got to go check it out to see what we're talking about. Um, okay, so did inclusivity and representation play a role in shaping the final lineup of stories?
Oh yeah, no question. I mean, like that was that like while I was looking at my list, I really wanted to make sure that we brought in a few people who were classic to the genre, so to speak. I mean, we have David C. Smith, who kind of literally wrote one of the books on sword and sorcery, and that's out, I think, this month as well. So,
Mhm.
and I mean, he wrote a number of Red Sonjas in the 70s and I think 80s. So I mean, like very staid member of the genre. We have Bryn Hammond, who is one of the stable writers at Ness. She's just a joy to work with. I when Oliver suggested he wanted her to come aboard for this, I was like I could not say yes fast enough. But then I also pulled in S.L. Wong and Brent Hammond, Brent Lambert. There we go, and Valerie Valdez, and together oh my God, together Oliver and I pulled together T.A. Marketan, who is an up and coming author who is in a couple of the Book of Blades anthologies. We had a story from that we did a um, sort of like a book club about. We did like a short story chat, as it were, about one of her stories, and I was just like, I bet this person knows what ElfQuest is because there's some elements of this story that like ElfQuest is like my origin story for being in sword and sorcery. I started reading that at 7 years old, and I'm gonna say that it changed my life for the better, but that's putting it very mildly. But in any case, it was just there were some elements in her story that just made me like, I bet she knows exactly what I'm looking for.
That's awesome.
And
Oh, that's great.
she extremely delivered. It was wonderful.
Um,
But yeah, I reached out to people in my circle that were doing things that at the very least I thought were like analogous to what we were looking for, or like they were bringing something very interesting that I thought could translate really well to
mhm.
the specific subtype of sword and sorcery I was looking for. Um, SL1 in particular, like uh, there was like a 2-day period where basically all I did was read Water Outlaws, and there was a related short story that was tied to that, and which is her retelling of the Water Margin, and I was just like, oh, this is I want this. And Brent, I've just been looking for a reason to work with for a really long time because I love his stuff, and I was just sort of like looking around online and realized like, oh, he had a story at Beneath Ceaseless Skies, so I bet he knows at least what we're looking for because Scott Andrews at Beneath Ceaseless Skies is his taste is impeccable in that specific personal story way. I really like and respect what he brings to the table as an editor. And so I was like, well, if Brent has done a story for Beneath Ceaseless Skies, I bet he could do this. I bet he would be down for
Mhm.
this. And then I remembered every time I retweet something with Elric in it, he would give me a like on it. So it was good there. But yeah, we pulled people in from all over the genre, and Valerie, of course, the capstone there, is just my actual like writer best friend who lives in my brain. So just sort of like my natural go-to for this, but also extremely competent in stories of both action and romance. So I knew that asking her to be one of our opening crew was going to be the perfect way to cap things off. So
that's awesome. We got some excitement in the chat too. Super excited. Bryn.
Yes.
Super excited for Bryn's inclusion.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Bryn is, yes. So if you're a completionist of Bryn's goatskin character, you've got to buy Beating Hearts and Battle Axes, because it has we have an exclusive goatskin story.
Okay, I'm going to finish up the last question in this section, which is, why do you think readers are currently craving romantic and spicy elements in fantasy more than ever?
Oh, I think that's an easy one. I think the world is really uncomfortable right now, and romance is a comfort food. The thing about romance is not just the romantic elements. The promise of a happily ever after is like a deeply powerful thing. And a lot of people like snub it or poo-poo it, or like they just don't have a good opinion of it because life isn't like that. The whole point of reading fiction is life isn't like that, dude. Like
absolutely.
Like, and so I don't think that it's surprising at all that people are cleaving to stories that promise you by the genre that they're parked in that they have a hopeful element to them. They could be dark fantasy, they could be really honestly pretty grim stuff, but the promise at the end that you soldier on together is something I think that it's like undeniably important in the moment that we're in.
No, I like that outlook on it too.
Yes.
We got Delane, spicy romance for the win with Fire Hearts.
Yes, absolutely. I'm gonna go so far as to say that like books in general are a specific type of soul food, and people that resist them for whatever reason might be denying themselves some much needed nutrients. And like fat is also a nutrient. So like enjoy the fat, enjoy the sugar, enjoy the sweetness, enjoy the spice. Get into it. Like that there's no reason not to. And I'm not going to say like don't also read important things, but like season it.
Yeah, no, honestly. It's very like reading is very enriching. And
yes.
I mean,
singularly.
If you're reading spicy stuff, you could be sweating, you could be like there's
exactly.
lots of different emotions you could be feeling too.
Exactly. And it's just another way to explore the world, in my opinion. So like, you can venture into lives that you would never consider in a lot of different ways. And some of them are romantic.
Okay, so we got about 12 minutes left, but you know what? We can keep going through these questions because this is a good discussion. So I'll just keep going. Okay, so our next section is called Behind the Scenes. And so the next question is, what was the most challenging part of editing a multi-author anthology like this?
So part of that is actually just me, which is as I've mentioned, I have pretty severe ADHD. I used to think it was moderate, and I don't think it's moderate anymore based on the experience that I had doing this anthology. But like, so one of my processes as the dev editor is that I kind of like, I have to hold all the pieces of the story in my head and jumble them around a little bit and then like lay them back out again. And doing that with 6 stories was hard. And some of that was like me making it harder on myself because I didn't have the capacity to like parcel it out. The stories rolled in on a cadence. Like I had asked a couple of people, and we asked a couple more people, and then we asked a couple more people. But in general, like the stories came in and I jumbled them around for a little bit, but I wasn't really able to set them in because I didn't know what the other stories coming in around them were going to be. So I had to like all of this nice cadence we gave me to like get my work done. It just didn't do that at all because the way that I needed to know what every other story was going to be before I could determine what the first story was going to be, and like, and jumbling the pieces around, and like the sort of tumbler, as it were, like the rock tumbler I have to put all the pieces in, just was um, not as spacious as I previously believed it to be. So that was one of the difficult parts for me. And I don't know that I could have anticipated that, because it was also like, there was also enough life stuff going on at that point in time that I couldn't have anticipated that things were going to be quite what they were. So that was
Yeah.
probably the hardest part for me. Just like, because we were also like, not only is like my like when we started this process, my mother still had one leg, and we still had a functioning government, and now she has no legs and I have no functioning government. So like like the fact that we made it through
Yeah.
this is like in no small part kind of a miracle in some ways. But so like the stuff that I had to hold in my head also had to be like, I also had to hold my life stuff in my head while I was holding story stuff in my head. And if I had the foresight to be like, send me an outline, or like send me a more brief prospectus, like I might have been able to do some of the cardinal organization stuff that I needed to do a little bit faster. But you also
Mhm.
learn how to build the plane while you're flying it, basically. So that's one of those things that, like, I wish I had been able to do it a little bit more cohesively, but it just didn't. It didn't
Hey,
do that. And the fact that it's really cohesive now is just like because I took the extra time when it wasn't.
yeah, life threw you some curveballs and you made it work.
Exactly. But yeah, so and to be fair to anybody else, like this particular process is just like, that's my way of editing a short story, so to speak. And other people might approach that differently, so I wouldn't take it as like, oh, every editor has this weird thing that they do. Every editor has a weird thing they do. That was mine.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. Steve, I think this was referring to right before we asked this question about the romance,
Oh
but I
yes.
definitely appreciate why a lot of readers would be looking for that right now. One of the reasons I myself don't think I could write genre romance is that I don't want the audience to know what happens.
I think
That's
that's
fair.
fair, but I also think that the people that are reading romance because they can predict what will happen at the end, they're reading it for what happens in the middle. Like, they want that part to be different and interesting, and then like to have the like hope at the end that things are going to turn out okay. And that was one of those things that it actually took me a really long time to like grasp as a reader and as an editor, is that like, because I was definitely, for a really long time, I was that cynical, like, romance, it's all the same, it all ends the same. And it's
Mhm.
like, actually, actually there's a pretty wide gamut of what would be considered a happily ever after, or a happy for now, or whatever type of ending you want there. But in terms of like getting myself there as a reader, it took me a really long time. And I literally, like, I would classify everything that I write or have written that is in print right now, like, has some element of romantic tension to it, whether or not it's a full romance or not. But
Mhm.
it took so long to like get past some of the like stereotypes and stigma in my brain. And I think a
Mhm.
lot of people have that. Like, it's super common. I wouldn't beat yourself up over it. Um, it does make it like, it does make it a little challenging to figure out what your trying to think of a way to put it, like what your structure is going to be in the middle, unless you go super formulaic. But I feel like it's one of those challenges that is very rewarding if you can stick the landing on it. It's like, oh, that was great.
Mhm.
But
Steve, I just want to be clear. I don't think all
oh
romance
no,
is
no, I knew what you were
and
saying. I just
yeah, we knew what you were saying too. Yeah, we don't think you're a jerk. Don't worry.
no, no. And I mean, I'm familiar with Steve's work, so I know.
I
Yeah.
like both. Like I like knowing, kind of like having a predictable outcome, but then also going into a story where you don't know what the hell is going on and you have to like it's slowly revealed to you as you like keep
Oh,
reading.
absolutely,
Love both of them.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's one of the magic of reading. I would say like perks, so to speak, is that you develop a certain amount of anticipation for certain things,
Yeah.
sort of like tangent to the trope conversation. But yeah,
Yeah.
so
No,
that was
definitely.
sort of the toughest part of editing for me for sure, was just like refining my thoughts and making them cogent for other people to understand the thing that was tumbling around in my head for sure.
Okay, so if that was the toughest thing, then what would be like the most the sorry,
Joyce.
my
It happens.
brain just decided to stop working when I was trying to form a sentence. What would be the most rewarding moment during the editorial process for you?
Oh, I would say I think the like every time someone comes back to me with like uh some modification on any of my notes, it's just like, ah, you read my notes. I will never not be overjoyed by that. Like there's a certain part of editing that's very lonely,
Yeah.
which is that like you can be sitting and like you're really enjoying the story and you think it just needs a little bit of this. And when you send it back to the author, and I know this because I'm an author, the author is going to receive that like an atom bomb. And so every
Mhm.
time I get back the notes, like, and especially if like I have a few of my authors are really good at like replying to my inline comments and stuff. And so
Mhm.
anytime like the inline comment was something to the effect of like, oh, I get it, or like, here's where I think that could be, like, here's where I think I should take that. It's just like, you understand that what I want from the story is not like a criticism of what you already wrote me. It is just an enhancement of your thing that I get to be like, look at this cool thing they did for me.
Yeah.
So
No, that's really
like
cool.
that's one of the most exciting parts, I think. I don't know that there's a more exciting part than that, other than actually putting the book together and having it as a physical object. That part is still
Yeah.
very surreal.
That is definitely magic, I will say. Okay, we got a comment. I picked up one on a whim and found myself knowing what was coming about 10 pages before it happened. If I can avoid my readers doing that, I'm doing well.
There's something to be said for like the confluence of like deep originality and like potential confusion for your readers. So you have to find the like the gap between those things and get your words through that.
Mhm.
Because
Like,
if you can't anticipate what's going to happen at all, you're like, what's gonna like why am I reading this? But like if you're reading with a sense of anticipation and then you anticipate exactly what it is, the author has to do something unique with it to keep you hooked in it.
yeah, I
It's a
find
tough
too,
balance.
not the same genre, but like thrillers, I find for
Yeah.
those, like I read thrillers quite often, and I find like something super satisfying over the fact that like I can figure something out right
Right.
before it happens. Like, or even if I figure out a plot line like maybe halfway through the book, I still
Oh
find it
yeah.
really satisfying.
Well,
That
because
being
you still
said, like,
there's the satisfaction of solving one element of the mystery. And
yeah.
to be fair, like as an editor, one of the things that I try to direct people to do is to sort of like aim at two different readers. There's the loose reader who is going to speed read your thing and they're going to miss that one little detail. They're going to
Hmm.
miss the key that got picked up on page 2 or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you have to do little things to like drop clues to remind them that the key's in the pocket. But
Hmm.
then you also have to do things for the close reader that reward them for being a close reader, or they'll get bored.
Yeah. And like sometimes if I do discover the plot twist
Mm-hmm.
very early on and I get there and it happens, like sometimes it's not a great payoff, but like it all
Right.
depends on how they
It's
like
all about
craft it.
execution at that point, which is,
Yeah.
yeah, which is
Because
again
like
why you have
even
to be playing to multiple audiences at once, unfortunately.
yeah, like if I know what's gonna happen, but then it's still a really satisfying ending, then I'm just like I'm okay with it and I'm over the moon. But if I know what's gonna happen and it doesn't
And that's
play out
all you get. It's
anymore,
like, yeah.
yeah, then I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, if there's no element of surprise to it, like, what are you reading?
Yeah, there's definitely a fine line of like
Yes.
of the craft, I would say.
Oh yeah, and it's different for every reader too, which is why you just have to be like, it wasn't for me. But yeah,
Yep.
like it's a fine line. It's a tough balance. I support and salute anyone who is trying to make that balance work because it's not easy.
Yeah. I am the close reader who gets bored. I don't necessarily mind if I figure stuff out if the character work and prose and everything else is great, though. Basically what
It's
it is.
such a, yeah, it's such a specific thing, and it's so, again, such a fine balance. Like there's no perfect way.
Yeah, no. Um, did any story evolve dramatically from first draft to final version under your guidance?
Um, yes. I don't know if I want to call that person out on camera because I don't want anybody to
Yeah,
feel like
don't
I
have to.
didn't like I didn't love their story, but there was one story that came back to me basically as a total rewrite, more or less.
Okay.
And that was more because like the thing I asked for in edits made more sense to just redo. But
Mhm.
all of the things I still liked in the original was still there, so I was like, this is fine. That's an acceptable outcome.
Yeah,
um,
and there's
Sometimes it is easier to just start over and rework the thing, and
yeah.
that is you know, like especially when you're trying to juggle like two totally like genres that appear to be in discord with each other at a distance, and when you're trying to bring them together and align the parts that align, sometimes you do have to like just sort of ditch something and rework it. But for the
Mhm.
most part, I would say that like when things came back to me, they were always better the second time. Every just in sometimes it really is like as an author, I know that sometimes just like the distance from having the story on your desk is enough to show you like 50 things you wish you had done differently. So
Yeah, yeah,
like being able to do that with my authors and let them find the solutions to the things I isolated as things I wanted a little more resolution on was um rewarding.
yeah. And I think the beauty of your job is like you help them realize when they are finished.
Oh yeah.
Because I know a lot of authors that like will say that they like just want to continue like adding more and more and more, or like they wish they
Hmm.
would have done this, or they wish they would have done this, and it's like no, you're the person that comes in and helps them say like no, this
Oh
is
yeah.
a good final product, like this is where we're gonna sit at, and this is where it's gonna go.
Absolutely. I'm one of those people that needs hard deadlines, uh not because like well, I mean sometimes I can't function without one, but mostly because I need a place for the thing to be done.
Yeah, because
I need a point at which I have to turn off the like continue to futz with this. And
yeah, if it's too open-ended it just might never end, so
and that's I think a lot of younger authors, a lot of indie authors, and a lot of authors that don't have like a necessary like any kind of like editorial calendar that they have to be adhering to, like
Mhm.
that it's a pitfall you can fall into. I have fallen into it several times during my career, so I'm very sympathetic to it.
Yeah. Okay, we have 5 questions left. We're already at 7, but
Well,
if you're okay with
I'm, I'm
going
fine
through
with
the
a
rest.
couple minutes over. I have the time.
Okay, then we'll just continue on. So, what advice would you give writers who want to break into anthologies like this one?
Oh, guidelines, guidelines, guidelines. Read the guidelines. Read other things the person has written or edited. Read um, read as widely as you reasonably can to fulfill the like sort of like thing that is being asked for. I realize that's a very privileged thing to say. So I'm saying, with full caveats that like I don't expect anybody to like go out and buy anyone's entire OVR to try and get into one magazine, for example. But like
Mhm.
as a general rule of thumb, if you know what the editor likes and has recently published, you are more likely to be able to come up with something that isn't exactly that thing.
Mhm.
Um, like one of my pet peeves as an author is receiving feedback like we just published something just like this, and it's like,
Yeah, I understand.
but at the same time, it's also like as an editor receiving the story and going, oh, we just published one of these is the worst. So
Yeah,
like it works both ways, and in no way is sending rejections any kind of fun. So that's the other side of it, is that like there's a certain amount of publishing today that relies on a sort of spray and pray method, and like that has pluses and minuses, right? So like if you send things out and you don't self-reject, you have more opportunities net, right? Like you miss every shot you don't take, et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, like some of the shots are closer than others, my friend. So read the guidelines, be really sure that the thing that you're sending conforms in some meaningful way to the guidelines that are being set. If I were talking about like a hypothetical version of, say, a volume 2 of a BHBA type deal, I would actually probably have a guidelines document that people could like download, because the specific things that we're looking for with that series are pretty well set at this point. As far as like, I would really want, for example, like something that has an obvious happy-ish ending to it. And I would want stories that specifically intertwine the two genres successfully. I don't really want like a sword and sorcery story with a romance tacked onto it. I don't really want a romance with a little bit of sword and sorcery tacked onto it. Like those two things have to work together, and the people who know both of those genres well enough to know like what's interchangeable and what's not are going to have an advantage there. And I think that's true for every magazine and every anthology out there. Like knowing the subgenre that you're submitting to by having read some amount of existing work in that of your, so to speak, is like, it will give you an edge that very little other basic easy to do stuff will have. Everything else is going to be down to skill and execution, and that's just practice. Like that's, I hate to be like, yeah, you just have to do the work, but I, as a person who looked for the easy way out of this my entire career, up to and including going to a workshop where I was like, surely this will be where I learn all of the answers and all of the whatnot. And then an author who has like been one of my favorite authors for a really, really long time, somebody who has a career that spans basically like from like the year I was born, said something to the effect of like, I always worry if this is going to be my last book. That I just ran out of everything. That this is just like, it's not going to be good enough anymore. And I realized like, oh, this is the long haul. It's going to be like that if you have bestsellers, if you have options on your books, if you have people like there's no short circuiting the rejection cycle. There's no magic bullets. The magic bullets are a lie. And that was just like, it was devastating to me in the moment, but also necessary.
Yeah.
So I share that not to be like, haha, I went to a workshop. It's like, I went to a workshop. I went to a very expensive workshop, and I learned the hard way that you still have to do the work at the workshop and after the workshop to make it work.
Yeah.
Like it's just part of the biz. You have to do the work. There's no corners around it. There's no AI prompt that can give you the magic bullet. Sorry. None of it. You have to do the work.
I find that timing also has a big factor as well.
Timing and specifically luck.
Around the timing. Luck, unfortunately.
Those two things together are entirely what publishing is, and it sucks so bad.
Yeah.
Because opportunities, and the thing is, here's the other side of that coin though. I will say that like right now, opportunities feel very scarce because we're in a very negative economic situation, especially in publishing. Magazines are collapsing in. Magazines are being bought by mega companies who don't understand how magazines work, and you know, the anthology cycle is thinning out a little bit because people's available like fun spending money is starting to become like grocery money again. Any of us millennials who lived through 2008 are like, oh yeah, it was just like this 20 years ago. So like, as far as that goes, like the opportunities are going to seem thin, but the opportunities, when you start looking at it from a like, year over year, decade over decade opportunities situation. Like there's more opportunities than you could ever possibly write for. So pick the ones that you really, really love. Pick things that you're dedicated to. Don't just like write for an anthology that you don't care about. Pick something that's like a topic that you care very deeply about. And then even if it doesn't sell to that anthology, that story is still like it has more verve and more guts than the story that you wrote, because it's like, well, it's kind of fits the parameters. Write the story that super fits the parameters of an anthology you're dying to be in. And if it doesn't work there, like it sucks, but also having stories that you can send out to other places is part of the job too, right? Like you build your back catalog by continuing to send out the things that haven't sold yet. And if you don't, if you put all of your eggs into very few baskets, you just are not going to have very many opportunities. And that sucks also. Like as a person who does not really write short, like I am deeply sympathetic to the people who are like, I can only write one short story a year. Like I maybe do that a year. I get it. I completely do.
Yeah.
But try it. Keep trying. This is absolutely the industry of keep trying.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I think we kind of answered the next question, because my next question was, what common mistakes do you see in I would say just in submissions in general, and you were saying just like kind of not following the guidelines is
not following the guidelines is like my numero uno, like, ooh, why? But also like why the guidelines are there is sometimes the thing that's like mysterious to people too. So I'm sympathetic to the idea that like maybe especially for people who are like starting from a country that is not English first as far as language goes, like if you're submitting things from another country, like there are bound to be things that you just are a little bit off on, and like practice, you just got to keep practicing. I'm trying to think of like anything else there. Like it's so much of it, it's really just is like conforming to guidelines. Like if you are submitting to a speculative fiction magazine, you need to be sending them speculative fiction, not nonfiction, not whatever other thing that you're writing. If you're submitting to a lit mag, you want to follow the rules of the lit mag. Like and I recognize that every magazine has their own rules, and all of their rules are idiosyncratic, and that sucks. But conforming to the rules tells the editors that you are participating in the process, so to speak.
Yeah.
It is like it's the closest thing to a magic bullet there is just follow the guidelines. Beyond that, I would say that like it's meaningful to spend time on why you are writing stories. Like just to think about like why is that the thing that you've gravitated to? Not because I think that there are any bad reasons to write stories. I think that like for your own entertainment is as good a reason as there exists. But if you have a milieu that you are specifically trying to explore, if you have something that you are trying to talk about, like it will come through in your work. It will be secreted in your work, so to speak. Like, so if you have a unique worldview and you have something that you are trying to say about the world that you live in, be loud about it, because that is where your voice is. And if you can harness that and make it palatable to, like, here's the other side of that, you have to make it palatable to editors. Like you can do as much of your like creative work as you want, but if it is not palatable to editors, they're going to decline it surely on like, I would have to do so much work to make this fit my magazine. So you have to do sort of, and you have to figure out what that balance is of like, where's my voice? Why am I the person to be telling this story? And yes, it's true, even in like a sword and sorcery romance situation. Like there really is there is something personal in specifically in fiction. And if you can harness that, you will have a leg up over a lot of other authors.
Nice. Hear that, everybody? Be loud about it. Okay, we got 3 more questions, and Excellent. Then we're going to wrap up. So,
lovely.
Third last question. How can authors successfully balance emotional intimacy with high stakes action?
Oh, what a good question. I think a good way to do that is for those things to mean something outside of the context of either the action or the romance. Like if they're both, if the story hinges on both of those things together, I feel like it enhances the meaning. If that makes sense. I'm trying to think of a way to phrase it. Just as an example, like the physical parts of, I'll call out Bryn's story just because we had some shout outs in the chat. Bryn's story like is really reliant on the emotional relationship between these two women in the story. And so everything that happens to them has like a heightened sense of stakes, sheerly out of like, because we care about those characters caring about each other. We are compelled to follow them along through what happens to them in the story. And it adds, I'm not going to say like it adds like a whole element of danger or anything, but it does make the stakes very personal in the way that we want out of like classic sword and sorcery. But the romantic element of that story cannot, like, it could not be extracted. You could not take away the romance between these two characters and have the story function in any way. And that was like exactly what I wanted when we were doing this. So
That's awesome.
I think that being very good at describing emotional weather, so to speak, is one of those things that like you develop as you start to write romance. And being able to inflict that emotional weather on action and have action sort of like flowing back and forth between those two things, that I think I would say is maybe like the closest I have to advice there.
Okay,
Like,
well, good advice.
yeah. It's one of those things where it's like it's easy, but it's not, and you have to practice it.
Yeah. Steve said it's especially hard for marginalized writers in terms of that kind of thing.
Oh, it's
Often
so hard.
editors, not all, want stories from marginalized people, but don't anticipate the variety of work those authors produce.
It's so real, and it's very frustrating. There's a lot of that, especially with like when you're dealing with any really like non super westernized culture. Like what constitutes a story is going to be different, and so authors that are working in like a very western, very like Lester Dent action story like template are going to have an advantage over authors that are trying to do something in their own traditions, or something that doesn't necessarily have the sort of like rip along pacing that is sort of expected in a lot of like Western, especially like fantasy and science fiction. Like there are a lot of like very specific, I hesitate to even call them tropes, but sort of like mechanisms to those types of stories that are just different from the way that other stories can present. And so, yes, there's absolutely a challenge there. It's absolutely privileged to be like, oh yeah, like this is what story is. Like, no, it's what story is for one group of people.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's complicated in that sense.
I agree with Steve. I like the term emotional weather. Love that.
I actually got that from a Tom Waits song. And it was from his Nighthawks album, the Emotional Weather Forecast. If you seek that out, it is the way in which he describes some specific emotional things. It's like the terminology emotional weather was immediately burned into my brain, and so I use it whenever I am talking about those things. Yes. He is a genius. I love him dearly. So just such a like inventive person. And so anyways, yes, that was just one of the things about, but I think it's a thing that's specifically important to romance, right? Like emotional weather is how the characters are feeling about each other, about their situations, about everything around them. And so being able to parse that for the reader so that the reader feels the emotions too, like
Absolutely.
there's nothing better.
Yeah. Michael also added motifs.
Yes, motifs is a good word.
Yeah. Okay, so our final two questions are just kind of like some fun ones just to end off. So one of them is, if you had to sum up this anthology in 3 words, what would they be? I mean,
Am I allowed to use our taglines?
I was like, we
Sword,
kind of already
sorcery,
have
sizzle.
it.
I feel like so like part of the process of making this anthology was sort of like we had to do all the jokes about it before we could be like, no, really, is this gonna work?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like the title itself, Beating Hearts and Battle Axes, like we went back and forth about that a little bit, not just so much like because for both of us it was a vibe immediately, but for several people who were like sort of like consulting on the outside, they were all like, I don't know. But then so we did that, and then so we actually commissioned a fella whose name escapes me off the top of my head. I'm very sorry, Indrid Lukin, who does typeset headers for comics and things like that. Okay. And we were basically like, what if we like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle this? And it like as soon as we had the logo type, I feel like the logo type described the project. And at the same time that we commissioned the logo type, we were also working with Emmy Morgan, our cover illustrator, and she like for everything about that cover, like she did all of the like the physicality of those characters, just like was 100% just like we told her roughly what we wanted, roughly like the sort of like landscape that we wanted, and then we sort of turned her loose with it and hoped it would work. And it was a great like back and forth process to get that to come together. She actually has a whole breakdown on her website that has like the process of painting that as like a, you know, those of course the word like progress shot, so to speak, as a GIF that plays on her website. And it's just like cool. The evolution of the back cover, in particular the back cover, we were very, very weird about, because Oliver and I both had a specific idea of what we wanted it to do. Yeah. We really wanted specifically like it's Farford and Grey Mouser, Ilmet and Lankmar as a romantic gay meets cute. And that was the extent of what we had like in mind. Yeah. We couldn't figure out how to like show that. But I feel like really confident that me saying that and anybody looking at our back cover art will go like, oh yeah, that's what happened here. Okay, all right. And the process of doing that just was like, it was a joy, but it was also just sort of like we had to figure out the right amount of classic elements and like new, like sort of like, I'm gonna say like new romance, like the very thirsty covers, which is like one of the things Emmy Morgan is like fucking fantastic at. I'm sorry, pardon my French, but like let's be real, this anthology has some of that word in it. So yeah, but like in any case, like the like super physical type of romance that her covers are known for is like why I wanted her for this. And she nailed it in terms of like getting the right amount of like adventure and danger and like bedroom eyes. That was what we were aiming for.
It's a great cover. No, that's.
But yeah,
that's
just
amazing.
like have that process of shaping that was the process of shaping it from, are we being very silly, to like, oh, actually this is a thing. It's absolutely a thing. All right.
Nice. So. Okay, and then our final question. This is to wrap it all up. What do you hope readers will feel after they close the final page of Beating Hearts and Battle Axes?
Oh, I mean, I think the thing that I would say there is like, I hope they want more, just in a broad general sense. I feel like if that's the outcome, I've done my job. I would say that overall, all of these stories do end with the sword and sorcery happily ever after that I set out for. And so I would say that there should be some amount of, I hesitate to call it satisfaction, but I feel like there's a certain amount of like, this did what I wanted it to do, that I'm hopeful that people will be feeling at the end of this. Feeling maybe like a little more hopeful, a little more inspired. Like, I feel like that's the key to a certain type of romance, and that's definitely the type of romance I was trying to twig here.
Amazing. Okay, well, with that, that wraps up our interview. So I want to say thank you to Jay
Oh,
for
thank
coming
you.
on and chatting about beating hearts and battle axes with me. Um,
Absolutely.
for anybody that is interested in the anthology, I have a link in the description of this video, so you can go there to go see where to get it. So yeah, definitely go do that. And yeah,
Thank you.
thank you for
This was
being here.
wonderful. Absolutely. Just yeah. Thanks. Thank you for
Okay.
being an outlet that on a project that has been just um I'm very excited that I had an opportunity to get some of the very excited about this project out verbally.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm happy to be here as like a place to like pitch this to everybody, let them know how awesome this thing is that you have worked so hard on. So,
Aw.
and all the contributing authors as well. Like,
Yes.
props to all of you for helping put this
I
together.
we literally could not have done it without them, as I have reminded them many times through the process.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well,
Okay.
thank you so much. This was wonderful.
All right. Well, we're going to say bye to everybody in the audience. So thanks for attending and asking all your questions. We really appreciate you guys being here and supporting. And yeah, just thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody.